Hey readers, welcome back to another read aloud of Planet Omar, Accidental Trouble Magnet. I've got my book here and I'm ready to get started right away because I have all my supplies. I got my reader's notebook, I have a pen, I have some sticky notes, I have all the things that I might need in my reading work today. So one thing I'm going to do is just check into my notes. Last time I was reading chapters 5 and 6. I have it here. I'm just going to look over what I wrote. My skills, I was analyzing parts of the story in relation to the whole. Remember, I was thinking a lot about characters and the role they play in Omar's life. And then also I paid a lot of attention to the author's craft. Zainab Mian does a lot of really cool stuff in her writing that's really unique. So I spent some time noticing that. I was noticing that characters play a huge role in the story, and how Omar interacts with his family tells us a lot about him. Also, I think Charlie and Daniel will be major parts of the problem and solution in this book. That was right. It was Omar's first day of school, and he had just met Daniel and Charlie, and I was thinking about how that might impact the story. Okay, so now my brain is ready. I'm ready to get started. I'm back in the book in my head. So let's pick out some reading goals. Here we can see our narrative reading progression. I was just kind of clicking through earlier to think of what I might focus on. I'm noticing these are getting pretty filled, which is cool. That means I'm practicing a wide variety of skills. So I want to kind of go down to skills I haven't done yet. Character response and change. Ooh, this might be a good one for Omar because I'm focusing a lot on him as a character. I notice how a character changes across the story. For example, the character's feelings, traits, motivations, or behaviors might change. I think about what key moments in the story caused the character to change. Yeah, I think that would make sense to do with this story. Determining themes. No, I have to be at the end for that one. Comparing and contrasting. No, I don't think that would make sense for Omar. Then these analyzing perspective. Well, that might be a good one. Thinking about who's telling the story and how I know. Okay, so those are my skills. Analyzing perspective and character response. All right, here we go. Chapter 7. I thought I was going to get through the day without any problems. Until lunchtime, that is. Daniel bounded up to Charlie and me and said, "The new kid and the weird kid are sitting together. How nice." He said nice in a different way than when people normally say it. I wondered if it was sarcasm, but my sarcasm detector isn't very good. I get confused when people say things all upside down. I tried to figure out if Daniel wasn't actually as bad as Charlie warned, and he did think it was nice that we were sitting together. Or if he was being mean, because it obviously wasn't very nice of him to call Charlie the weird kid. Anyway, Mom and Dad always say to try to think about things before blurting them out. I could feel Charlie trying to think of what to say too. He was taking air into his lungs really deeply, as if preparing to say something, and then opening his mouth and closing it again. But nothing came out. I think we were both silent for a super long time, which seemed to make Daniel very angry. He shouted, "Idiots!" before walking away. When he was gone, Charlie said, "See, he's always horrible to me." "Why?" I asked. "Did you two have a fight or something?" "No, he just hates me for no reason. I think he hates the whole class, but he hates me the most." Charlie looked so sad, so small. I couldn't help putting my arm around him, which made Charlie look at me and smile, his toothy smile. When Mom picked me up later, I told her all about my new friend. I saw her breathe a phew. I guess she was worried about how good or not good my first day would be, since I was so nervous. I told her that I liked Mrs. Hutchinson and her amazing changing hair. Mom told me about her day too. It sounded like she had a great time at her dream job, poking around at microscopic stuff with fancy equipment. And on the way home, she'd passed a chocolate shop, so she bought some for our neighbor to say hello properly. Thankfully, she had bought one of those fancy adult chocolate boxes with lots of dark chocolates in it, which are so yuck that I didn't even wish the box was for me instead, which I normally do when we have to give chocolate to other people. I thought we could pop over when we get home. Okay, I said slowly, remembering how grumpy the neighbor had been the last time I saw her. We picked up Miriam and the little human thing we call a brother, who always comes from preschool with half his lunch on his shirt. Mom had to clean up Issa before we popped over next door because she's embarrassed to have messy kids. She even said to me, "Wait, let me run my fingers through your hair." Mom says the things the wrong way around when she's hurrying. "You mean run your fingers through his hair," said Miriam, because she likes to correct people. Yes, that, said Mom. And she marched us all over and took a deep breath and rang the doorbell. Okay, so this isn't actually a part of one of my reading skills, but I'm really wondering, why is she so nervous? I'm thinking back to a sticky note I made before, which was in chapter 1, I think. Chapter 2, maybe. The old lady. Why was she being so snobbish? So I think it's that neighbor. So now I might be adding to some of my knowledge. So I'm going to just make a prediction Yeah, let me make a prediction of how I think it might go. So I wrote, I think Omar's mom will bring chocolates and the neighbor will start being nice because people love chocolate. Duh. So let's see if I'm correct. She marched all of us over and took a deep breath and rang the doorbell. We waited. Nothing. We waited some more. Nothing. So I reached forward and rapped on the door really loud a few times. "Why did you do that?" Mom hissed like a quiet, angry snake. "What?" I shrugged. "Maybe the doorbell isn't working." "Well, it's rude," hissed Snake Mom. And just like that, the door opened really quietly and eerily, like in horror movies. There stood an old lady, quite a short one, with lots of white hair and one of those cardigans that all the old ladies wear. My grandma has one. We all said, "Hi," pretty much all together, except for Issa, who said, "Assalamu alaikum," like he had been taught to say to our nanny. The old lady was really weird because she was just standing there without reacting. She didn't say hello. She just stared. Mom explained that we were the new neighbors. The old lady stared. Mom said, "We thought we would just come over and introduce ourselves." The old lady stared. Miriam gave me a secret whack on the arm, which was meant to say, "OMG, this is so awkward." I gave her a secret whack back, which was meant to say, "OMG, I know." Then Mom asked the creepy, rude next-door neighbor what her name was. Just when we thought she wouldn't say anything, she blurted out, "Rogers," then slammed the door. I glanced up at Mom. She looked like one of those helium balloons that hardly has any helium left. Wow, that's really painting a good picture. Leave it to Zaina Mian to use some figurative language, like how Mom looked like a helium balloon without a lot of air left, to really help us understand exactly how the character's feeling. So one of my things was character change, and a few things I want to start tracking, because this is a long chapter book, is things about the characters, right? So I'm going to make a little list and maybe write down some attributes. Maybe I'll make a table. I don't know. I haven't decided. Okay, so in this part, I've just made a little table. I wrote the characters, some of the main characters that we've met, and then a word to describe each one. Omar is energetic, Charlie is helpful, Daniel is mean, Mom is nervous, Rogers, that old lady, is rude, Issa is naughty, and Miriam is proper. So I could also, I'm going to add to this later so that I could look what these characters are doing if they're acting the same throughout the whole story. On to chapter 8. For a few mornings as we left school, my mom asked me if I had done my duas. My mom is absolutely obsessed with having a routine that we stick to every morning, a bit like it's one of her science experiments. My parents do their duas whenever they think of something they want to talk to Allah about. I sometimes wonder if other people see a Muslim's lips moving and think they're secretly casting a spell or just talking to themselves, when actually they're just doing one of their duas. There are duas for everything: eating, sleeping, waking up, protection, knowledge, leaving the house, coming back into the house. Basically, anything you can think of. I used to forget them sometimes, but now I was making sure I did them as soon as I woke up, especially the prayer for protection, because Daniel was getting meaner and meaner every day, and I felt like I needed all the help I could get. He had started to follow Charlie and me around the playground at recess. Sometimes he wouldn't say anything, but he would do lots of staring and make grunting noises, as if he was having some really mean thoughts. And once, he charged at us like a rhino. Then he started laughing like mad because it made Charlie jump. Minus Daniel, school was getting to be quite all right, especially since Charlie and me were becoming super best friends. We laughed at all the same things, and we even wished for all the same things, like getting an Xbox and more screen time to go with it. That was starting to make up for how much I missed my friends back at my old school. I was still a bit worried that they might be forgetting about me, but Dad said we could all be together in the summer. Mrs. Hutchinson was really nice too. Every time she saw me in the mornings or when she walked past my desk, she checked on me and gave me a wink. Not all the lessons were fun, obviously, but whenever we did something creative, she got really enthusiastic and her curls were happy and bouncy. It made me wonder if she could imagine things the way I did, or if she was just like all the other adults. One afternoon, when we were doing an art lesson about Picasso, Mrs. Hutchinson was so excited about how he made everything abstract that her curls started dancing with joy. She asked us to paint self-portraits just like his. Charlie and I were having loads of fun giving ourselves colorful triangle noses and weird-shaped eyes when Daniel walked past our desk and sent the dirty water cup tumbling onto my painting. Oops, clumsy me. There he was again with his upside-down talking. It definitely wasn't an oops moment. It was a, hey, let's ruin Omar's painting on purpose moment. Charlie's mouth dropped open in surprise, and my heart took a little dip, as if it was falling into a different, less comfy place in my chest. It seemed like Charlie could tell exactly how I was thinking, how I was feeling, because he leaned in to whisper, he's just a big frog spawn head. I bet you can paint a new one even better. And he gave me the biggest, toothy grin I'd seen yet. I imagine what Picasso looked like. I wonder if he looked like some of his paintings, all out of shape, but happy. Happier than all the other paintings from those days. And then I thought, hey, what if some kid had ruined Picasso's painting at school one day, which is why it came out all different and weird, and that's what made him famous? So I took my paintbrush, I grabbed it like it was alive, and for the first time ever, I held a paintbrush and I painted. When Mrs. Hutchinson saw my work, her curls almost rose to the ceiling. Omar, she said, you did this? Yes, Mrs. Hutchinson. Wow, it's brilliant. Daniel's face was red, like the beets my dad will never eat. He passed me a note, and it said, watch out. When Mom came to pick me up, he stared at us both as if we were someone's old chewing gum that had accidentally touched under the desk. I almost pointed him out to her, but then I remembered how relieved she'd been that she thought school was okay. So I kept quiet. Sometimes, though, I think my mom magically knows when somebody in her family needs cheering up, because that evening she announced she was making biryani. Biryani is my all-time favorite Pakistani food. It's hard to make, and Mom says scientists with full-time jobs don't have time to make it every week, like I asked her to do. Mom always opens the French doors to the patio when she's cooking, no matter how cold it is outside, because she can't stand the house smelling like food. Homes are meant to smell like nothing, she says. Not fish, not samosas, not smelly socks, and not even weird artificial air fresheners. And since the door was open, I stood there with my giant bubble kit to see if I could really make a bubble bigger than me, like it said on the box. I could see our next door neighbor, the horrible Mrs. Rogers. She was outside poking around at her weeds with one wrinkly hand and holding her phone with the other. After a few minutes, we heard her say loudly, "John, the Muslims are frying smelly onions again." "Oh, I'm with her on this one, kid," joked Dad, who hates it when the smell of frying onion and garlic gets into his clothes. I know, but we don't want to give her another reason not to like us," said Mom. Then she held Dad's arm like she does when she's going to tell him a really good idea. "Let's send her some. She'll love it." I know it gets really stinky when the biryani is cooking, but seriously, it is so yummy and it is so worth it. And I couldn't believe that Mom was being so nice after the way Mrs. Rogers was treating us when we took her those chocolates. Why does she deserve some of our delicious dinner? And to make it worse, Mom and Dad made Miriam and me take it over to her house. She took forever to open the door, as usual. And when she finally did, and we tried to give her the container, she just said, "Spicy food, no thank you," and closed the door. "Sheesh," said Miriam. "You'd think we were trying to poison her." Okay, that's the end of chapter 8, and I'm having a lot of thoughts. One of my goals was analyzing perspective. I'm just going to note that, like, obviously this is written from Omar's perspective. I know that because he says things like "I," and this is all written from inside of his brain, right? It tells us these crazy things that happen in his brain. Omar's perspective, for sure. But I really want to think about some of the characters and not who you would expect. I'm getting to know Omar a lot, but I want to know more about Daniel and Mrs. Rogers, the neighbor. These two antagonists, they're the mean characters in the book. I want to know why. So I'm going to do some thinking about, like, why are those people acting this way? And I'm going to take a few notes. Okay, so I've written a few things here. The first is about analyzing perspective. I just quickly took a note that said this book is written from Omar's perspective. It's totally from the inside of his head, right? This is really obvious. Then my second part was all about the character change, right? So Daniel and Mrs. Rogers are the mean people, right? So I'm wondering why these characters are so mean. Omar and his family have given no reason for them to act so rudely. Seriously. Maybe their family did something unknowingly to Mrs. Rogers, like step on her plants. Maybe Daniel is just a mean guy. Or maybe he's jealous, sad, lonely. Still not sure. Well, that is it for me. We've now read chapters 7 and 8 of Omar. We're a little less than halfway through the book, and wow, what a great story. So thanks again for listening. I know it got a little long today, but you can add a comment down below. Why do you think Daniel or Mrs. Rogers are so mean? It's really interesting to me, and I really want to get to the bottom of it. So catch me next week where I'll be reading another chapter. Bye.